Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. My name is Hack, and this week we are deep into the preview event for Amazon's new MMORPG New World. If, like me, you're stepping into a tournament for the first time, or maybe you're just taking a look to see what the game is all about, then I've got a quick and easy beginner's guide just for you. This is going to be 7 beginner tips for starting off in New World. So let's get started. First, let's talk about the starting area. So after you complete the game's tutorial, you're going to be dropped onto the shores of the first zone. Here you'll do several more tutorial-style quests that get you acquainted with the game's various systems like crafting, skinning animals, and so on. And while you might be tempted to leave the area and start exploring right away, I feel that following these opening quests is the best way to get started because they do give good experience early on and they reward you with items that you can make use of right away, including new weapons and armor. So make sure to complete those starter quests. Now, speaking of weapons, the weapon mastery system for New World is fairly complex and it's an interesting system overall. The first weapon you'll start with is going to be the sword and shield, but I find that the two-handed hammer and the throwing axe are actually my preferred starting weapons. Now this is mainly because these weapons' basic attacks can actually stagger enemies, giving you more time to do damage while avoiding taking damage yourself. The throwing axe in particular also has a ranged attack with infinite ammo, which is actually pretty good for pulling in enemies from range, or even for tagging enemies for experience in crowded locations. You can also get access to all of the other weapons in the game early on, like for example the bow or the musket, but these weapons are less useful in my opinion until you're actually able to craft the ammo for those. Staffs are okay to start with as well, but since you're locked in place while using some of their basic attacks, I feel like these will be more suited to group roles later on in the game. Again, for the best starting setup, some combination of two-handed and axe has been my favorite so far. Keep in mind that you also unlock weapon swapping at level 5, so you can easily switch between the two types of weapons that you like the most. Let's talk next about consumables and the quick slots for your character. Now, when you first start the game, you'll have access to 2 quick slots for consumable items right away. These items are actually extremely important, especially food and potions for early on. Food, for example, gives you health regeneration as long as you're not in combat. This makes your health actually climb back to full in between enemies. And this is super important. You don't want to start a fight with low health. And potions, on the other hand, can provide a quick burst heal, though there is a slight animation that you have to go through. So make sure you have enough space cleared from nearby enemies so you don't take more damage in the process. So after you clear your way through the starting area, you're going to move on to the first major town for even more tutorial quests. Now, this can be a little bit time-consuming early on, but it is necessary because you can't join any of the New World factions until you actually complete the town quests first. So you're going to be running around a lot, farming materials, collecting resources, crafting, collecting items, but it's all worth it because as soon as you're done, you'll be able to join a faction to unlock faction-specific missions and gear. And this is basically the only way to unlock the real game, including PvP missions. So make sure you get those town quests done as soon as possible. Now, speaking of questing, you'll find very early on that most quests in New World require quite a bit of traveling out to objectives and then back to town to return to the quest giver. We're talking serious travel times here, and currently there are no options for mounts in New World either. So basically anything you can do to manage travel time and make it faster is going to be really helpful for you. Now first, you want to make sure to use the auto run button whenever possible. This just lets you run and cover terrain hands-free. And the nice thing about this too is you can still open your map. You can check out your weapons mastery page to plan out your build, or you can have your quest journal open to figure out the next step you need to take. All of this while having your auto run turned on. Now, other than the auto run, there's not much else you can do except the healing staff, which actually has a distance movement ability, which will also help you cover distance fairly quickly. So make sure you grab a life staff when you can and earn at least the first few levels of weapon mastery to unlock that skill. For tip number 6, let's talk about inventory management. As in most MMOs, inventory management is an important thing to consider in New World. Firstly, if you're collecting old and unused weapons and armor, that's actually going to weigh you down quite a bit. Now, the nice thing is that those same weapons and armor that you're not using, those can actually be salvaged into raw materials and repair parts, which can be used to repair the gear you actually want to keep. So rather than keeping every single piece of gear you come across, make sure to salvage the ones that you don't need. Just hold down S and click on the item, then confirm. Second, in the main towns, you also have access to storage for anything you want to keep, but you don't necessarily want to carry around on your back. And it's highly recommended that you use this storage early on, especially for storing crafting materials, which can quickly add up and push your character over the carry weight limit. For example, just doing the main starting town quest, I have all of this crafting material, these raw materials, and look how heavy these are. The nice thing too is that even when you put these crafting materials in your storage, they'll still be usable when you're at a crafting station in the same town. Finally, tip number 7 has to do with repairing weapons and armor. So yes, like many similar games, New World does have equipment and weapon durability, which you can actually keep track of in your inventory screen by just hovering over any specific item. And obviously you'll want to repair those items before they break and become unusable. Now, repairing your gear in New World is actually really simple, and it can be done anywhere using the repair kits that you obtain from salvaging equipment, which we mentioned back in tip number 6. So just make sure you've been salvaging your unused equipment, make sure you have enough of those repair kits and coin in your inventory at the time, and then click on an item while holding down the R key, and your gear is now fully repaired and you're good to go. All right, everybody, and with that, that's going to wrap up our guide on 7 quick beginner tips for starting off right in New World. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it informative. Of course, if you did, don't forget to crush that like button and let me know what you think of this game in the comments section below. Also, if there's any important beginner tips that you've come across, I'd love to know those as well. Go ahead and share those too. I do have a website, hacktheminotaur.com. I'll be posting a few written guides on New World as I dive in and explore more in this preview event. So there'll be a link for that down in the description. As always, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.